Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our show. I am Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And as we get closer and closer to Chinese New Year, you might find yourself with some free time on your hands after you've had your meals and you've played your games and stuff like that. Maybe you're sitting around with nothing to do and you don't want to go fight traffic jams and stuff like that.
No.
Maybe you want to stay home and brush up on your English. Well, what better way to do that than to listen to us, but also to read some literature.
You know, one of the best things or best ways to learn English is to choose reading material that you're actually interested in. I realized this about me with Chinese. I realized that I would study more if I read more about baseball in Chinese. So that got me more excited. But when you just are studying vocabulary words that, are kind of dull or uninteresting to you, you don't learn as quickly. So pick something that just really whets your appetite. That just means get you excited for something. And I think this book is a good choice.
It is a good choice indeed, and we're very interested in this book ourselves. And in our literature unit, of course, the first 2 days, we're going to be summarizing the plot of the book. And then on the third day, we'll talk about Grace Lin herself. So let's get into the first day here. We'll start summarizing our featured work of literature, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Let's listen.
Min Li is a young girl who lives in a poor village by the fruitless mountain with her parents Ma and Ba. The village residents labor in the mud all day. But there is barely enough rice to fill each person's bowl once a day. At night, Ba tells Min Li stories. He tells her about the wise old man of the moon, who can answer any question, and the jade dragon, a mysterious creature who caused the mountain to be barren in response to the grief she felt after she lost her children. He also tells her about the vicious, corrupt, and greedy magistrate tiger, who was merciless to others. Ma disapproves of these stories because she thinks they're useless. She is miserable because of their poverty and treats Min Li harshly. Inspired by her father's stories and devoted to her family, Min Li sneaks away from home and ventures out on a quest to change the family's fortune. Taking the advice of a magical talking goldfish, Min Li heads toward Never-Ending Mountain, home of the old man of the moon. Barely has she started her journey when she rescues a trapped red dragon who has a stone-colored ball on his head. They become friends, and Dragon accompanies her on her voyage, during which they encounter many challenges. Dragon reveals he is unable to fly and hopes to ask the old man for advice about this. Meanwhile, when Ma and Ba realize Min Li is gone, they set off to look for her. After searching in vain, they go home to wait for her to return. Ma feels guilty for her former hostility after realizing her beloved daughter was actually her own precious treasure.
Okay, everybody, let's get to it. Let's talk about the contents of today's lesson. It's all about a girl's noble quest, and this noble quest happens in our featured work of literature, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. That's the title of this particular work of fiction, this novel. There's more to it than that. This is actually a noble quest. So here in the title, we've got this word quest here, which is kind of like a search for something. It's a long journey, and you want to get something. I guess they talked about the quest for the Holy Grail, okay, which was like the goblet that had Jesus's blood in it or something like that. That's part of the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, I believe. They're on a quest for the goblet, the Holy Grail.
Now, it's a noble quest, guys, which means it's a search for something, but it has a lot of good involved. There are a lot of high moral principles involved. She's not out looking for, a treasure chest of gold so she can buy herself a big, nice house and new clothes and a car. No, she's on her journey to do something that's really, really good and worthwhile. So this is the name of the book that's in italics here, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Italicized type tells us it's a name of something. So that's the name of the book. I love the name of the book itself. It's quite nice. So we've got this character, Minli, and she's a young girl. But she lives in a poor village by the fruitless mountain with her parents, Ma and Ba. And you can see immediately these are Chinese terms, because if it were English, it would be Pa with a P instead of Ba. Fruitless mountain is the name of the mountain. What does it tell us? It tells us that mountain doesn't produce anything, doesn't produce any fruit. Or maybe they've tried to plant crops on the mountain and it just doesn't produce any crops or harvest for them. So it's kind of a useless mountain, you could say. So, yeah, she's in a poor village and they live by the fruitless mountain, and it sounds like she's the only child.
Right. I did want to say fruitless means that you're not really getting any results. Like many years ago, I tried to learn how to play the trumpet, but I tried, and all my efforts were fruitless. I didn't really learn that much. I learned a couple of scales, but little else. It was very frustrating, so I gave up. My efforts were fruitless. That does happen sometimes in life, but it's okay. We try other things.
Yeah.
And so in this case, the story goes on here. The village residents labor in the mud all day. Labor here can be both a noun and a verb, but here it's being used as a verb. It just means they work hard in the mud all day. Of course, mud is wet dirt, so I guess they're trying to grow crops or something. But still, there is barely enough rice to fill each person's bowl once a day.
Wow.
So even though they work really hard, they still cannot produce enough food to feed everybody.
Yeah, as Tom said, this word labor, guys, is often used to describe physical labor, physical work that's quite difficult. We have that phrase manual labor, which means you're using your body and not just your brain to do something. We would refer to manual laborers as being blue-collar workers, whereas if you work in an office, you're a white-collar worker. You've probably heard those terms. Well, unfortunately, they really are very poor. If you can't even fill your rice bowl up but once a day, it's kind of a sad situation. Well, at night, Minli has something that she really enjoys. Her dad comes in and tells her stories. He tells her about the wise old man of the moon. And this guy can answer any question you have. So that's kind of fun. I'm sure she starts to think about all the questions she has. And he also tells her about this other character, Jade Dragon. Now, Jade Dragon's a mysterious creature. We don't know very much about Jade Dragon, but we do know this. Jade Dragon kind of put a curse on the mountain. It says here she caused the mountain to be barren. If a mountain is barren, it just means it's fruitless. It doesn't produce anything, and maybe the land on that mountain is really poor, so it can't grow any crops, or maybe it has trees that don't produce any fruit. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. So Jade Dragon is responsible for that mountain being barren. But why, Tom?
Why would the Jade Dragon do that? Why would she be so mean? Well, again, she's a mysterious creature, but she had some sort of tragedy befall her. She had some tragedy in her life. She lost her children. Her children died at some point. So you can't blame her here. Of course, if a mother loses her children, that's a really sad thing. It's probably the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone in their life. And so because of her grief, the mountain became barren. Grief here just means extreme sadness, especially the sadness you feel when someone close to you dies.
Yeah, grief is the noun. If you're talking about the verb, it's actually a different word. It's grieve with a V. So Grieve is the verb to grieve. And as Tom said, it's usually, almost always, I would say, connected to the death of a loved one or a good friend or even a pet. I know people who grieve over the loss of their pets. I was sad when my dog died, but yeah, some people are very attached to their pets. Well, she's grieving because she has lost her children. Maybe the mountain, had some sort of landslide or, some way the mountain was responsible for taking the lives of her children. We don't know, but we're going to find out more about Jade Dragon pretty soon. Right now, guys, it's pretty close to break time. Let's take a break. Listen to our Chinese teacher and then we'll be back.
Hello, my name is Shelby. 月夜仙踪是讲述慷慨奉献的故事。标题中 A girl's noble quest. Noble 有高贵的、高级的双重含义。Quest 寻求，暗示追求的不只是金银财宝。先看故事大意。第一段，敏丽年轻女孩住在五果山旁，和爸爸妈妈。村庄的居民 labor in the mud。第二句中的动词 labor 表示卖力工作，动词与名词劳工同形。In the mud 在泥泞中。但是几乎没有足够的米可以填满每个人的饭碗。米莉爸爸告诉他，月下老人会回答任何问题，还有翡翠龙。我们到第四句的后半 And the jade dragon. Jade 翡翠，这神秘生物让整座山 to be barren in response to the grief. Barren 寸草不生或者不孕的。In response to 加名词，对什么的回应。The grief 悲伤，失去孩子的悲伤，使得寸草不生。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, let's continue summarizing our featured novel for the month of February, entitled Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lin. Okay, so far we've got this young girl. She lives in a poor village. But people work there hard and they can't really produce a lot of food, so they're all pretty poor there. But still, her father, Ba, tells her stories. And one of her stories involves the old man of the moon who knows everything, who can answer any question. And then Ba also tells her about the jade dragon who lost her children, so she, of course, has a lot of grief. And the mountain there has become barren as a result. There are no trees or plants growing on that mountain because of the jade dragon's grief. Now, he also tells her about the vicious, corrupt, and greedy magistrate tiger who is merciless to others. So here we've got the word magistrate. That's the title of somebody who is like the governor of a certain area in a land, maybe of a county or something like that. I think they use that term here in Taiwan.
Could be a judge.
Like the xianjiang, say, of a certain place would be the county magistrate, the leader of county, like Nantou Xian. Nantou County has a magistrate.
Well, this magistrate tiger is not a good person. So this magistrate tiger is described as being vicious, which is cruel or violent. If you're corrupt, you're probably a politician. I'm not joking. Anyway, corrupt, you're willing to act dishonestly because someone will secretly give you some money or do a favor for you. Greedy means you never have enough of what you want. So if someone's greedy, they can be greedy about money. Or maybe they're greedy with their food or their possessions and they don't want to share with anybody. So this magistrate tiger sounds pretty bad. It's also described as being merciless. If you're merciless to others, it means you have no pity for other people who are suffering or in a tough position. You'll never help them. You just think, you deserve to suffer. So she's learned about these characters. Now, Ma is Minli's mother. And it says that Ma disapproves of these stories because she thinks they're just useless. Yeah, it's probably because Ba is very creative and he tells these fun stories that makes his daughter, kind of excited every night for story time. And Ma is just so unhappy with her own life. So she disapproves of these stories, which means she thinks they're stupid. She probably tells Ba and Minli, why are you wasting time with this? So if someone disapproves of an action that you're taking, they're not happy with it. And they probably express their opinion and tell you, I don't think you should do this. I disapprove of this.
Interesting. That's kind of a stereotype of the tiger mom.
Yeah.
It seems like the father is always like, oh, whatever, let the kids do whatever they want. But it's the mother who says, no, you've got to do your homework every night and you've got to get 100 points on your test. 99 is not good enough. So, yeah, here I guess Ma is the tiger mom here. She disapproves of those stories. Quit telling her those stories. It's contaminating her mind. She needs to focus on her studies. But still, she is inspired by her father's stories. But she's also devoted to her family, so she sneaks away from home and ventures out on a quest from home. And she wants to change the family's fortune. So yes, she has heard her father's stories. So maybe she believes there is this man of the moon or the old man of the moon who can answer any question. And maybe there's this jade dragon out there. And maybe she can help that person out. And this magistrate tiger, hopefully she won't run across him because that tiger might cause some trouble.
Now, if you sneak away, it means you do something quietly so no one else knows you're doing it. I used to sneak down stairs at night and get into the cookie jar when I was young. And I would try to be as quiet as possible so my mom couldn't hear me. She was the one who would always wake up. Now, she sneaks away from home and ventures out on a quest. Remember what a quest is? Kind of that adventurous trip. She's looking for something. If you venture out, this is a verb phrase. It just means you are doing something kind of risky. So you're daring to do something that might be dangerous or kind of risky or even unpleasant for you to venture out. Venture can also be a noun, you guys, and we do use it. Again, it's just a risky or daring journey, or maybe it's an undertaking like you're investing in a new company, in a new venture. That can be risky too. Well, she's venturing out on a quest to change the family's fortune. Remember, they're very poor and they don't have enough to eat. So she really wants to find the old man of the moon to see if he can answer a question about how her family can, change their fortune, change their circumstances.
Yeah, or maybe she's going to go to a city and get a job and send money back to her family. Who knows? But taking the advice of a magical talking goldfish, Minli heads toward Never-Ending Mountain, home of the old man of the moon. Okay, so at some point, maybe she's passing by some pond somewhere. And there's a goldfish there.
Yeah.
And the goldfish can actually talk. And the magical talking goldfish says, hey, you should go to the never-ending mountain because the old man of the moon is there. So that's what the fish tells her to do. And I guess she takes the advice of that magical talking goldfish.
Now, barely has she started her journey means she's just barely started. She's just started when she comes upon a trapped red dragon. And she rescues him. She saves the dragon. And this dragon has a stone-colored ball on his head. We don't know what that means yet, but we will find out. They become good friends. And then the dragon, who is just called Dragon, notice that's the dragon's name with a capital D, accompanies her on her voyage. Now, if you accompany somebody, you go along with them. Maybe you keep them company. You can go with somebody, like actually go to an event with somebody and accompany them that way. But you can also use it in a musical way. Maybe you are going to play a solo on your violin and you've asked your friend to accompany you on the piano. So you can accompany somebody that way too. But here it means they go along together and she's got Dragon as a friend to go along with her on her voyage. And they're going to encounter or run into many challenges.
Yep, it sounds like they're on a journey together. They're on a quest together. And, of course, they come across lots of different challenges. I think that happened in The Wizard of Oz as well. And Dragon reveals he is unable to fly and hopes to ask the old man for advice about this. So I think in Chinese culture, dragons can fly. And this is kind of a tragedy here because this particular dragon cannot fly for some reason. He reveals this. He shows it to her. Well, yeah, you're coming with me on this quest and stuff like that, but I really hate to disappoint you, but I can't fly, so if we need to escape danger or something like that, I won't be able to help you because I can't fly. But still, if I go talk to the old man, maybe he can give me some advice. Just like Dorothy and the Tin Man were going to see the Wizard of Oz to get, a heart for him and to get her back to Kansas, but that's another story.
Now, meanwhile, while this is happening and she's meeting these new friends on the road on her venture, her mom and dad are pretty upset. Ma and Ba realize she's gone, so they set off, which means they start off on the road to look for her. After searching in vain means you're searching or you're doing something, but you don't get the results you want. It's close to being fruitless, right? Tom said he took lessons on the trumpet and it was fruitless. You could say Tom took lessons on the trumpet in vain. He just never learned to play the trumpet. So they searched in vain, meaning they had no success in finding her. So they go home to wait for her to return. Meanwhile, remember the mom was kind of mean to Minli and treated her harshly because she was so upset and miserable about the poverty. But now she feels guilty. She feels bad that she treated her daughter so badly. Former means before. So she feels guilty for her hostility that she was directing towards her daughter. Hostility just means you're hostile. Hostile means you're unfriendly, you're kind of mean, you're not very accommodating. So she feels guilty about her former hostility. Hostility here is a noun. Hostile is an adjective. After realizing her beloved daughter was actually her own precious treasure. Sometimes we don't see the value of people in our lives until they're gone.
Yep, as they say, sometimes we don't appreciate things until we lose them.
Yep.
Or at least in this case, until we almost lose them. But I have a feeling this story is going to have a happy ending, as we'll find out next time. And that brings us to the end of our explanation. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
下一句，他还告诉他 the vicious 残酷 corrupt 腐败 and greedy 贪心的 magistrate tiger magistrate 地方法官在古时候就是指县长，但是妈妈不赞成这些故事，认为没有用。她因为贫穷感到悲惨，对待敏丽很严厉。这段最后一个生字 harshly 严厉地去掉 ly harsh 常说刺耳的话就是 harsh words。接着我们到第二段的第一句Inspired by her father's stories and devoted to her family, inspired 和 devoted 都是过去分词，这里省略主词敏丽和 be 动词 was 形成被动的分词构句。Inspired 被激发 ，devoted 奉献的，原形 devote 当作动词，常见 devote oneself to something 致力于某件事情。写成 devoted 当形容词用，专心致志的或者挚爱的 my devoted wife 我亲爱的老婆。而这句表示说受到父亲启发，而且对家庭做出奉献。接着米莉偷溜出去，而且冒险寻求改变家庭的命运。句子最后生字 fortune 不只有财富，还有命运的暗示。第二句 taking the advice 接受建议分词构句，主词是后面的 Minli of 一只神奇的金鱼。敏丽朝向无穷山出发，月下老人的家。第三句 Barely has she started her journey， barely 几乎不否定副词 当一个句子是否定副词在句首，那句要写成助动词加主词加原形动词的倒装句。在这句中 barely 加 has 完成式助动词加 she 主词，在 started 动词 PP 形式。类似的否定副词还有 hardly 几乎不， seldom 不常， scarcely 几乎没有，或者是 not only 不止等等。他几乎还没开始他的旅程，就救了一只被困的红龙。下一句，他们变成好朋友 and dragon accompanies her。 accompany 动词陪伴， A accompany B， A 陪伴 B， 或者也可以改成 keep B company。 On her voyage， voyage 是旅行，远距离的航空航海的旅行。其他的旅行生字，例如 journey Journey， 远距离的旅行含有心灵之旅， trip 短期的旅行， cruise Cruise 海上邮轮之旅。这一路上，降龙在旅程陪伴他。最后一句，降龙表示他不能飞，希望询问月下老人。接着到第3段，同时爸爸妈妈了解到敏丽已经走了，他们 set off 出发去找他。另外，片语 set out 也可以当出发，那两者有什么差别？在表示出发动身的时候， set off 和 set out 的意思是一样的，但是它们各自还有其他不同的含义。例如说，警铃响了 set off the alarm， 就不能说 set out the alarm。 他立志成为一个舞者 She sets out to be a dancer， 就不是 She sets off to be a dancer。 请大家在使用时根据上下文来选择。第二句 After searching in vain 徒劳无功地，他们回家等他。妈妈觉得内疚，为了先前的 hostility 敌意，还可以在 hostility 后面加上介系词 to 或 toward， 再加名词表示对谁的敌意。例如说 We have no hostility to our new neighbor， 我们对新邻居没有敌意。好，这是以上今天的讲解，谢谢大家的收听。
That is all for today, everybody, but there's more. We're going to continue summarizing our featured novel, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, in our next program, so please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
See ya.